Hey everyone. So I know a few of you are getting nervous about the final presentation this Wednesday. Today is Saturday, so you have a few more days to catch up. What I want to focus on in this video is just, going through your site plan and circulation diagrams and really unpacking what else there is to do. So we'll work in Rhino, we'll work a little bit in Illustrator, and then InDesign as usual. Okay. So just open up your Rhino file. I cannot emphasize this enough. Do multiple saves, please. This I think we're up to tutorial 7. So I'm just gonna save that as number 7. Last video we did our section cuts. So at this point, everyone should have all 6 of their section cuts finalized. Now I want to go into your site plan renderings. Okay. So I'm going to change this back to shaded. I'm going to go into perspective view. And so for your site plan, what you're going to do is take your final model and just like everything else, you're going to make 2D. But this time it's not Boolean unioned. This is, the reason for this is that it'll still maintain these different layers, and those different layers are what we're going to apply to the different line weights that we established in the previous um, video for your section lines. So I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to go into my top view, zoom selected, and very simple, make 2D. All right, for this, I do want to see my hidden lines because I have some hidden areas beneath the top surface of my landscape. So hidden lines on. And I'm going to maintain source layers. This way I can see the color in the output. All right, so now zoom extents, zoom selected, take this out over here, and I can see my different layer colors. I can see gray lines that represent the hidden lines, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. All right, so I'm going to take this and just bring it over to the side where I kept the rest of my drawings. All right, I'll probably put it right above here. All right, I know a lot of you have already watched the course coordinator videos from Melina, so that's here if you want to reference that as well. It goes into some really great detail, but this is just, a little bit of a simplified version. All right, so now that I have these different line weights or these different layers, I know what my top view is and I know what my base view is. All right, for here, I'm going to make 2D in the Arctic view, zoom selected, or I'm not going to make 2D, sorry, I'm going to do view capture to file. But make sure that you choose either the rendered view or the Arctic view. All right, this has a little bit more shadow to it. The rendered view is a little bit, brighter. So try to keep it consistent with what you've been doing for the previous few projects, for the previous few models, I mean, or drawings. All right, so I have this selected. I'm going to give it a little bit of breathing room. Maybe what I'll do is rotate this 90 degrees. This way I can use my rectilinear viewport. And I'm going to give it some distance from the other views because if you see the drop shadow behind it really spreads out. And that's good for filling your page in InDesign. So I'm just going to keep it like that. All right, nice and center. Type in view capture to file. I do want to control the, I want to have a high quality image. Make sure that it's a transparent background. Sorry if you hear my dog barking. Um, all right, so you see even with the transparent image, the shadow is captured. So if I change this to inches, I'm going to change this DPI to 300 or 150. 300 would be a very high quality image. 150 would be the minimum allowance. Definitely it should be more than 70. So just because I'll make it 300. That's per inch. All right. Okay. So let's save this as my site plan example. Okay. So now I'm going to go back into my shaded view and I'm going to go to my make 2D drawing. I'm gonna make a copy of it just in case, and I'm gonna rotate it the same angle that I did for my test over here. All right, now just for reference, I'm gonna type in picture, and I'm gonna bring in that image that I just saved, which I actually forgot where I saved it. So don't do that like me. Make sure you know where you're saving it so you don't have to repeat this. All right, so view capture, I'm going to do this again. And oh, I saved it in tutorials, so now I know I don't need to do it again. All right, shaded. Good. Always keep an eye on where where you save your work so you don't waste time. All right, again, we're going to type in picture. And I'm going to go to project 3, tutorials, and that's where it is. All right, now this is my image that we just captured. And I'm just going to move it over here and then scale it so that it matches my drawing. All right, ends off roughly around here. Perfect. All right, so now I know uh, which objects are closest to me, which are farthest away, and I'm going to edit that. You see in my view capture, it didn't actually follow the best shape of my curve. So that's a little interesting. And I'm not sure if I have a direct solution for that, but maybe I do. If this is happening to any of you, please let me know. Um, I'm just going to make a new surface. And I joined it. I put in the command planner surface. I'm going to change this to my top layer, which I believe was blue. Change object layer. All right, and now in perspective. Okay, I'm going to copy that. Bring it over here. Very interesting how that didn't work out. Yeah, definitely if this happens to any of you, please let me know. I just realized that I'm pasting it on the wrong model. It was supposed to be pasted over here. But yeah, if any of your Arctic view shapes are not adding up, um, yeah, it's a bit of a funky situation, but we'll try and get that worked out. So I'm going to hide this one below. Okay. And I'm just going to extrude surface down to the top over here. And then my new extrusion, I'm going to change the layer. All right, and I'm going to do my Arctic view again, just to make sure that it's consistent with the line drawing. So go back to the top view, zoom selected, zoom out just a little bit so you can get your shadow, change your view, and then view capture to file, some more, and I'm going to save this as example v2. All right, so I'm going to go back to shaded, and let's see how it imports. Hopefully it follows the curve better. Typed in the move command, bring it down to the corner, scale, and we're all masters of scale at this point. I am sure of it. All right, there we go. Much better, much more accurate. Yeah, sometimes funky things happen, and that's just an example of one of them. Sometimes Rhino has a hard time processing the geometry. Um, it's working as hard as it can, but sometimes things happen. But good. Now we know which of our view captures to use. And layer by layer, I'm just going to make sure that I have these captured appropriately. All right, so I know that all of these top blue lines are going to be in my darkest line layer, and everything in the background, which is going to be like the main outline of my landscape, that I'm going to all make my light line. So down here, I guess it's just these two. All right, that's going to be the light line. Change object layer. All right, my red layer, I'm going to make my midline. All right, you see I'm just collecting it one by one, making sure it's as accurate as I can get it. Don't forget the perimeter lines. Just remember to capture everything that you possibly can. I know some of you have some very intricate forms, so just, try to carefully approach it. So change object layer. Great. And now the only thing I have left here are my purple lines. All right. So that is going to be a midline. All right, and it looks like I still have some blue left. Oh, control, see that? If you find yourself moving your picture, just type in lock and it'll lock it in place so it won't get stuck when you're trying to capture something else. So I'm gonna take that blue line and I'm gonna take this blue line along this one, and those should be my dark lines. So change object layer. All right, it looks like I still have some purple lines here. Those were my medium lines. Change object layer. All right. So the next part is our hidden line layer. And let's just double check where this is living. So that's living in layer one. So we're gonna take that out of layer one and bring them here. But first I'm gonna turn off these other layers that I already organized. All right, so let me just make sure I'm in the default layer for right now. The goal is to take this to the hidden line layer. We see we still have some perimeter lines, so it's not necessary to keep those because we already captured it in the previous round. My goal for this is the hidden lines. All right, so I know that I captured this before. Dark line layer should also be off. Okay, so let's see. This one we don't need. I'm just doing a little check, make sure everything's accounted for, which I think it is. Now I'm going to change those to the hidden line layer. All right, so now if I turned on all of these layers, and I did unlock, and I just hide this image, I see that I have my full drawing. All right. So we have a series of different line weights. We know that this piece here and this piece there are the two closest. They're the dark lines. Everything else follows suit. All right, so our lightest lines are here. Looks like we might have multiple lines there. So we're just going to make sure that that's captured and then change to light line. Change object layer. Then I'm going to do select dupe. Make sure I don't have any overlapping lines, which it looks like I have a few overlapping lines, and I'm going to just delete them because we don't need any overlapping lines. And yes, that looks fine. This guy belongs where? I believe that's a hidden line. Okay. So now let's type in show to bring our picture back. And this curve actually should not be a hidden line layer. That should be a medium line, right? So, we're just doing a little bit of fact checking. All right, very good. So now I'm gonna hide my image again, and I'm going to select this object and make sure that my hidden lines are dashed. So you can do that in your layers command. You know that hidden line should say the hidden line type. Okay. And we're gonna make sure that the thickness is nice and light. We'll see how hairline looks. All right. And yeah, let's give it a try. So as you know, file, export selected, and we're gonna save it as a PDF. So just scroll on down until you see PDF and samples, site plan, lines. All right, so it looks like we still have layers in here that weren't converted to our drawing lines. So what we're gonna do is just select those and change them to the appropriate layer. You should see here everything is either black or gray. So let's just go in there and clean that up. All right, so this and this, they're supposed to be our, let's see, should be a medium line technically. All right, so let's see if that works. And also I noticed that my hidden line wasn't actually giving me a good hatch. So I'm going to change the line type scale just so that I can see the dash line. All right, so here we go again. File from the top, export selected, and we're going to call it site plan example lines. All right, we want to make sure that we're capturing the full size, so that's why I have the paper size is ARCD 24 by 36. I have it in landscape. It is a vector output, and that's very important because that allows us to edit these lines in the Illustrator program. So make sure that that's always set to vector when you're doing these line drawings. Focusing on my extents, the scale is 1:1 because I already scaled it in Rhino. And yep, we're gonna keep going down here. For line types and widths, this is where I want to scale my line type. This way I can start seeing the dash lines. So if I made it 5, that makes it very bold, so that's not gonna work. 1, units are model lengths. Let's see what happens when we change that. Yep, that's not working. Match pattern definition, okay. Arrowhead sizes, that's fine. Okay. All right, so if it turns out that it's not changing, no big deal. We're just gonna edit the dashed line in Illustrator. But for the most part, these settings are acceptable. Um, line width, match pattern definition. Yeah, let's just give that a try. Let's see, just going through, going through. All right, and let's see if our line weights are good enough. All right, so let's do a test print. And you can just go straight in InDesign just to set it up. Oh, make sure you are logged in. I need to remember what my email is. for this. I believe it's I think that's it. All right. This is probably the hardest that this gets. All right, see if that worked. Great. So we're gonna sign out of the computer in school and work on here. Awesome. So now let's go to the project. All right, so we see our section that we imported the last time. So I'm gonna go to the site plan layout. And please make sure that you are on the correct layer when you're importing these things. So I'm in section line, so this is the layer that I'm in. You see the little pen right there to show that you're in the right layer. All right, and now I'm gonna do Control D, or you could do File Place, and I'm gonna go to the Project 3 tutorials, and I'm going to first I'll bring in the image from uh, you know, that we just saved. For reference, we know that the top of the image, um, we know that the height is 8 inches and the width is 24 feet. I'm sorry, 24 inches. So what you're gonna do is make sure that you can scale this to meet the frame that I prepared for you all. All right, so let's do that. All right, we know that we have to go a little bit more so that it meets the frame. And it's not going to fit on just one page. That's why we're doing 2 pages side by side, as you saw from the template and the layout in Miro. All right, so now I'm just using my keyboard to place it a little bit more accurately. It looks like I need to stretch a little bit further. All right, so now we see how large the scale actually is on our viewports. So that's why it's even more important for you to focus on, getting this right and making sure that all of your lines follow suit. So we're going to get into adding our section cut lines in just a few minutes. All right, but we know that this is fairly accurate. All right, we might end up having to shrink it down a little bit, but we'll determine that with our lines. If it looks a little too blurry for you, you can change it to high quality display and it'll give you a little bit more of an idea of whether or not it is accurate. All right, so that seems fairly acceptable. Drag this upwards. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on the next page. I'm just going to copy this image that I just imported. It should be in the image lines. Copy that, paste that, and I'm just going to double click inside. You see the large frame is within the viewport. All right, perfect. And so I know that I correctly installed this image. So I'm going to lock that layer that we just worked on, so that that doesn't change. And then I'm going to import my site plan lines, which I'm not sure where I saved it again. So let's do that one more time. File, export selected. That's why it's in project 2. All right, it's back to tutorials. Site plan example V1. All right, we're going to keep the previous settings, just see how it looks. Control D for place. Site plan example. All right, we know that the top of this frame should not be any more than 8 inches, okay? You can use the frame that I gave you, or you can control it right over here in the properties where it shows how you transform. You see my height currently is 8.5, 8.7 by 26. So I'm going to change this to 8 inches, and then I'm going to fit this proportionally. All right, 24. And again, I'm going to type in fit proportionally. All right, so that should be exactly the size that I need. All right, 8 by 24. If I do Shift plus W, I can see the lines on top of my image. And here we can see that we have our dashed lines, very legible. We have our bold lines facing forward. And yeah, let me copy this on the next page so that we could really review this. All right, so I definitely have a lower quality image, so I'm gonna want to increase the um view output or the viewport, view capture. So I think that the settings were 4 inches, so definitely change the size of your image to just be, closer to the 8 by 24. It'll help reduce the pixels. Um, and yeah, you see I have a little bit of a wobbly curve over here. It would be great if you can fix those the same way that we fix this bridge to match the lines. So just check and see if you have enough time to do that. I know, the clock is ticking. Just try your best. But within here, I see all my special spaces that I created beneath. It's a little messy, but I know that most of you have much better layouts. And just make sure that you make all of these the occupiable spaces that you planned for. Okay? So if I thought that these line weights were a little too bold, all I need to do is go back to my settings in Rhino and just change them. I think my darkest line is at 1, so we can totally reduce that. So if that seemed too big, I can make it 0.7, and then everything else should be reduced from there. So if I have that 0.7, that could be 0.5. My light line could be 0.18, maybe 0.5 is too much. We'll change it to 0.35, and let's see how that worked out. File, export selected, and I'm just going to replace this file here. Yes, and that is so that it automatically relinks it in InDesign. All right, so in InDesign, you're going to see this little triangle pop up for both of your pages. Just click the little triangle, it'll relink it. And now you see it's not as bold, so it looks a lot more controlled. So I think that that is a good way to go. So definitely do these little checks to see if something looks way too heavy or way too light. All right. Yeah. All right. So now I want to add some people. So let's go to our scale figures layer. And for your people, you can make little ellipses. So the center of my ellipse, and then my first axis. So pretty big feet. I'll bring that down a little bit. All right. There's all sorts of ways that you can make these people. These legs are a little wide. All right. Just make sure that your scale figures are, no more than 24 inches wide. So if I have a line here, I'm sorry, 24 inches in the real world. So that means 1/4 of an inch in our scaled world. All right, because 1/8 of an inch is equal to, 1/8 of an inch in our model is actually a foot in the full scale because, as you know, we're working in 1/8 scale. So that means 2/8 or 1/4 is 2 feet. All right. So now I'm just going to set these feet back just a little bit more because I don't think that they're going to come out that much. And then trim. All right. So this is a very broad-shouldered individual, but that's okay. So I'm going to just make that a little block base. I'm going to put it right there. And person 01. Okay. Now I'm going to place my little person all throughout the site. All right, just make sure your ortho is off. If I know that I have an occupiable space in here, but these people should be hidden. What I'm going to do is make a new sublayer called hidden people. And I'm going to drop it into the scale figures layer. And so now you see this little arrow appeared. And what we're going to do is match our hidden line settings because they're underground. And let's see, hairline is better. Okay. So now all these people that I just created here in my dashed line, I'm going to change to my hidden people layer. All right, but I need to explode it from their previous component because that component actually doesn't have that layer, that line type. All right, so let me change these back to the hidden people, change object layer. Good. And now I'm going to remake a block. Person 01 hidden. Okay, so now I have my hidden people. Uh, rotate them with your gumball tool. All right, if you really want to, put in some effort, you could draw some tables if you wanted to. Just make sure that you're on a hidden line if it's under, in a space. And this is just, activate spaces a little bit. So change object layer. So I'm just drawing little circles for chairs. All right, and then we're going to trim this off in the end. So now it looks like I have a table for 6. All right, just typed in trim. Great. So this is my table for 6. I'm going to make that a group. And I'm just going to place them. All right, very basic little furnitures. Just to help set the space. Totally not essential to do. But definitely try to activate these spaces with people. Remember your primary paths of travel and your secondary paths of travel. What is the busier route? If it's a busy route, maybe you have a lot more people flowing through. If it's a more secluded route, then, you know, then definitely leave it alone. All right, so I could just leave these 3 people in this round corner. Maybe I have more people over here. Maybe it's more of a party. I'll flip them around this way. Lots to talk about. All right, so just drop these people in. You don't need people everywhere. It's just helping us understand which spaces are walkable and which are not. All right, so you see I have a hidden space over here, so maybe I have some more people that I'm going to copy into that room. And we know that they're hidden because they're going to be a dashed line. All right, so we don't know what's going on in this room. That depends on your program, and later on in your circulation diagram, you're going to have your legends telling us, what's going on. Let's just plug some people in over here. And this bridge, I'm going to have people under, walking, because in my case, that's a circulation route. So I'm just going to get a lot more people, rotate them, don't make them look too copied and pasted like this. Just try your best. All right, and just move them around until it looks natural. If this is a walking path over here on the outside, we're going to show people walking through it. So you see that there's enough space for people. All right, that's a good way to make sure your circulation paths are accurate, by the way. If you dropped in a person, this is what we did a lot in class with our little scale figures. If you drop in a person and it touches their shoulders, it's probably not a good idea unless you really want them to be squeezed into a space. But yeah, let's copy some more people over here in this little tunnel. They're just hanging out over here. They want some shade because it's a hot day. Great. All right, we'll copy some more people on this side. All right. So now let's do this all over again. I'm going to delete that little spare guy. Zoom selected. I'm going to do export selected. Click the same PDF file. And I do want to replace it. Yes, thank you. Print. And back in InDesign, I'm going to press those little triangles. Press the little triangle. And now I see my people. Lovely.